Booktube, Aaron here. Hope you're doing okay. Today I'm going to be doing the classical music tag by Will Chambers, and Will very kindly tagged me in his initial video. I'm filming this straight after the last tag video I did, so it isn't that I just always wear the same clothes. I was just in the mood to make a few videos, so I thought I'd make this one as well. So I promise I do change my clothes. That there are only 4 prompts to this, so I'll try and go through quickly, and I'll do my best not to go on a rant about people who complain about wind turbines. Number one, and all the prompts here, by the way, are sort of prompted by particular pieces of music. And so the first prompt is from The Morning Mood from Gynt by Gigue. And it's what type of book, be it fiction, non-fiction, prose or poetry, could you or do you read in the morning? And if you're not much of a morning reader, what book do you think has a great morning scene? And for me, really, the book I read in the morning, particularly if it's a work day, will be just whatever book I'm not going to take with me um, out of the house during the day. So I'm normally reading multiple books at one time, and sometimes they're just books that are too bulky to take with me out and about. As an example, towards the end of last year, I was reading this. This is The House of Government by Yuri Slezkine, and this is just really, really big. And I would have ended up with a back injury if I was taking this to work with me in my rucksack. So this was a book that was left at home, and a lot of my reading of this was done in the morning in just little snatches of time with my morning coffee. There aren't particular kinds of books I tend to read, but if I have time to read, there might be a particular book that I've decided I am going to leave at home because it's too big, and so I'll read that. A book with a great morning scene. I thought I'd try and do both. There are a few that I can think of, but I don't want to go with any terribly obvious ones. But at the moment, I'm reading The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. This isn't the translation I'm reading at the moment, but the proper beginning of the book takes place sort of one morning, sort of morning through into lunchtime at a monastery, and the Karamazov family, the father and one of the sons, have a bit of a feud. So the plan is they're going to turn up with some acquaintances from their town to a monastery, and they're going to have an elder there from the monastery as I don't know, a kind of middleman, I suppose, or a kind of advocate, to so hopefully bring some kind of peace. And I suppose some of them are hoping that people will act on their best behaviour if they're in a monastery. But that's really not what happens, and the son and the father, in their own ways, both lose their temper. And there's an amazing part when the characters have been invited to lunch um, later on in the day. So I suppose this is not the morning anymore, but it's kind of come out of the morning, what's happened that morning. Initially the father had left, and then he turns around and just decides he's just going to make a scene while everyone's having lunch, and he just has this massive rant, and it's just amazing. And I was reading the Michael Katz translation. That's the one I'm reading at the moment. And before, when I read this translation, I kind of got what happened, but in the Katz translation, it just felt like he was in the room, kind of shouting at me, which was kind of amazing in its own way. Yeah, it's just a great sort of opening set piece, but it takes a while to set up. But yeah, it's really quite funny. Number two is The Ride of the Valkyries by Wagner, and it's a book you enjoyed where the protagonist dies, or there's an important death or funeral. And I was thinking of two, I suppose, quite foundational books, really, that at the end it ends with a hero's death, and then the people celebrating or mourning their death. So it's there at the end of the Iliad, kind of doubly so, I suppose. There are two great characters. I suppose the protagonist of this is a character I don't particularly like very much. I find him quite monstrous, and yet he's and then there's Hector's death as well, and there's just a kind of poignancy to ending with a funeral, um, and then there's Beowulf as well, which again our hero who I suppose is a little easier to get behind. Beowulf, he does actually die, so we've got a dead protagonist at the end. And again, you kind of have, if I'm remembering correctly, you do have, it kind of ends with a funeral and a celebration of the hero's death, which seems to be quite important to the people who sort of originally told that story. So it's interesting. There's a kind of symmetry, and it'd be interesting to know how many other sort of early sort of narratives end with an important death and a memorial of that person. Number 3 is Packa Bell's Canon. Which book did you enjoy which has a wedding that you wish you could attend? With this one, it's one. It's not a wedding that I want to attend for for good reasons. I'm going with Jane Eyre, and I'm going with the first with the first wedding. And there's no one really in the church at that first wedding, so I'd have to be, I don't know, a caretaker, polishing some candlesticks or something in the church while it takes place. But of the weddings I've gone to, there's that moment, if it's a sort of a traditional wedding, when they ask if there's a lawful impediment as to why these two people can't be joined. And there's always that awkward silence, and people look around the room. And here someone actually does come up and interjects and protests that the marriage. And so just for that sake alone, for the novelty of that, I would quite like to be at that first wedding in Jane Eyre. I suppose the wedding in Shrek is quite similar. And then number 4 is the planets by Holst, particularly Jupiter, the bringer of jollity. Um, Sorry, I'm just laughing that I brought up Shrek. A book or series which that poignantly moves through phases, or maybe it's a bildungsroman or a work of historical fiction, something like that. So I suppose a book where you see, a certain amount of change in a character's life or a movement through time, something like that. And I'm maybe cheating a bit here since this book is made out of short stories. I'll go with the Cosmocomics by Italo Calvino, and the main character whose name it's impossible to pronounce, Kufufk, I suppose you could say, or Kufufk, is a, I don't know, pan-dimensional being, I suppose, kind of like the mice from Hitchhikers, and he's there in various key points, I suppose, in the universe's history. So the first story, he's there on a surreal, reimagined version of the primordial Earth, when the moon was closer to the Earth than it now is, and it's imagining this character and his friends going on these little cork boats with a ladder, and they go up to the moon to harvest cheese, which of course you do. So they have to milk the moon, and then they curdle it into cheese, because after all, you have to be scientifically accurate, I suppose. And it kind of goes through like that. There's a moment I think when maybe the first star comes into being, I believe, and lots of things like that. And he turns up in all these different shapes. There's all these different characters throughout the history of the universe, in all kinds of strange situations. And so I suppose in a way he's a character who changes a lot. Whether or not you actually get that development, it's hard to say because it's kind of like a cartoon character, where at the beginning of every episode, it's kind of like there isn't that continuity. It's always fresh at the beginning, but you're also kind of getting a change or a development of human thought as well, because every story is kind of inspired by a certain scientific theory, and so you're seeing, I suppose, the development of Calvino's curiosity and where he's going as well. So there's kind of a development there, I suppose. So I'll leave it there. So this was the classical music tag. Thank you again, Will. And again, I haven't thought of who to tag. So again, I'll say that if you would like to do this, so it's a quick one, so you can get through it in not too much time at all. But if you haven't been tagged, then feel free to consider yourself tagged and give it a go. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.